the Hedgehog for the Game Gear. Let's check this one out, guys. Good old Sega title screen. Sounds a little bit rusty on the Game Gear, the 8-bit Game Gear, but they did get the speech out of it. As you can see here, this game came out in 1991. It's actually late 1991, and this game, for all intents and purposes, is a port of the Sega Master System version. The Sega Master System version came out maybe a month before this one. They're basically the same game, except for some technical differences, obviously being on handheld. The resolution is slightly lower than the Sega Master System version, but there's actually more colors on screen, as the Game Gear did have a bigger color palette than the Sega Master System. Otherwise, the Game Gear virtually is a Sega Master System, as the processing is the same, the game design's the same, like the language and the code. On the inside, they're very similar systems, but they did up the color palette on the Game Gear, and then of course the smaller screen is a lower resolution. All in all, this version is a pretty good Sonic game. It maybe doesn't have quite the speed that the Genesis version has. There are some parts in the game where there is a lot of slowdown. But as you can see here, it can move quickly when it needs to. It does move pretty quickly there, as you can see. The levels are designed for the Sega Master System version, so this is not the same Sonic the Hedgehog game on the Genesis. It's completely different levels. It's obviously much simpler graphically. There's no multi-layer kind of scaling, or on the Genesis version you have that parallax scaling where the background moves slower and you've got multiple layers of background. This is just pretty much one layer. Obviously there's less colors. Obviously there's no stereo sound. But it's a good game overall, and it's definitely, I think, better than the second one. There is a second one for the Game Gear, and I don't like it one bit. The levels aren't. I don't think they're as good as this. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I played it. But I think the levels are overall pretty good in this, and they did a really good job for an 8-bit handheld Sonic game. So like I said, this came out in late 1991. The Sega Master System version was actually built into some of the Sega Master System 2 systems. I know not all of them, because I think some of them had Alex Kidd or one of those games in it, but I hear that there are some Sega Master System 2s with this game built into them, so that's pretty cool. There's no spin dash in this one, and considering it came out, shortly after the Sonic the Hedgehog for the Genesis, and the first one didn't have spin dash, you could say that's not a technical thing. You could say that they just didn't have spin dash yet. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Sega Master System and Game Gear also doesn't have the spin dash, and by then you would expect the spin dash. So of course there's 2 buttons on the Game Gear, and they're both jump like any Sonic game. I think the bosses are pretty well done in this version. I mean, the bosses in the second one there's no thought put into them. I mean, you know, they're pretty decent boss fights on this version here. And there's the second boss done. And now we're in the jungle level. Like I said, the color palette's slightly higher than the Master System version. I should maybe see if I can get a side-by-side screenshot of this level here, because I'd like to see how it looks on the Master System if it's got less colors than this. I'll be sure to get that extra life there. Those are the save points there, those down arrows. So when you die, you'll start where you hit the last down arrow. Ooh, almost hit that. This level's neat because you're actually working your way up. You're not working your way, you know, left to right. You're working your way to the top, which is, you know, it's nice for something different like that. And of course I'm playing this on an emulator, as it's you know, really the only way to get a good clear screen for you guys. But as you saw, I do own this game. I also own the second one. I was thinking of doing both in one, but I don't know, I didn't really like the second one, so I thought I would just, you know, stick with this first one here. And of course run it on the emulator to record and give you guys a nice clear picture. In case you're wondering, I'm using the Kega Fusion emulator. That's the emulator that I use for actually all Genesis, Sega Master System, 32X, Game Gear, and Sega CD. This one emulator does them all, and it does them all very well. And then I use Fraps to record, so. Fraps doesn't work in all emulators, but it does work in this one. Depends if they're using, I guess, direct draw acceleration or direct 3D acceleration of any kind. Some emulators do not bring up the option to record in Fraps. So luckily this one does, and it does, like I said, pretty much all the Sega systems up to the 32X, I guess. You know, pretty much from the Sega Master System to the 32X, all in one emulator. Very nice program. You should check that out if you haven't. Now, like all Sonic games, he can't breathe underwater forever. For a countdown timer, it sure does move really slow. I hope that's not, you know, a mistake in the emulator. And how do you like that? Just in the nick of time, you get the air bubbles, and he breathes the air out of the air bubble. That's pretty cool. And as you can see, I'm running out of time. But anyways, I mean, this is a good game. You know, it's a really good Sonic game considering it's on an 8-bit portable. I think they did actually a really good job on this one. And it's definitely a must-have for the Game Gear, as any Sonic game is a must-have. And there you go.